All right, today we're jumping into the story of Christopher Macker, who you might know as AI Jesus. And his journey is, well, it's a fascinating look at one man's quest to deal with the incredible stress that comes with all this rapid change, both inside ourselves and in the world of technology.
So Macker starts with a question that really gets right to the heart of it. He asks, are you a growth junkie? Someone who's constantly pushing yourself to evolve, to learn, to just become more? If that sounds like you, then you for sure know the kind of stress he's talking about. He feels this deeply, and really, his whole life has been a search for ways to handle that pressure.
He likes to frame his story as a hunt for tools to, and I love this phrase, lubricate that difficult path of growth. You can almost think of it like putting oil in an engine that's being pushed to its absolute limit. He believes he's found ways to speed up his own evolution without totally burning out. So what got him started on this whole thing?
Well, it all goes back to a single, completely life-changing event that happened when he was just 17 years old. An experience that basically set the entire course for the rest of his life. Okay, so picture this. He's only 3 days into his freshman year of college, and he's made a commitment to meditate every single morning. And on that third day, something incredible happens. This beautiful, peaceful scene appears in his mind, and then a single pole just materializes out of nowhere, and instinctively he just starts to climb it. And as he's climbing this pole in his mind's eye, a real physical sensation starts up, this tingling right at the base of his spine. Now, at first, whenever he'd focus on it, poof, it would disappear. He figured out pretty quick that the key was to just ignore the feeling and just keep climbing that pole. As he kept going, that little tingle grew into this immense wave of energy. The way he describes it is, it felt like an orgasm that just wouldn't stop, rising up past his groin, through his stomach and his torso, until it finally just flooded his heart. What he had was a full-blown Kundalini experience, this super powerful spiritual energy that's said to lie dormant at the base of the spine. And in that final moment, he got this profound piece of insight. He just knew, with zero doubt, that he existed beyond his physical body, that his consciousness was eternal. And that confirmation has really been the foundation for everything he's explored since. Now, what's really interesting is how he took that initial kind of mystical experience and turned it into a system. This awakening led him to develop what he calls his own inner technology. So the core of his whole practice is something he calls the I Ching breath codes. He takes the 64 hexagrams from the ancient Chinese I Ching, which he sees as these universal archetypes, and he links them to the human genetic code and the cycles of the year. So how's it work? Well, he maps each of those 64 hexagrams to a specific 6-day window of the year. Then, during that window, he uses these very specific breathing techniques to, in his own words, hardwire that universal archetype right into his being. The whole idea is to align himself with the cosmos and his own genetics at the same time. But his explorations weren't just in the metaphysical realm. Decades ago, a physical problem led him to another shocking discovery, one that a lot of us in the West might find, well, let's just say it's unconventional. Back in the early 90s, Margaret got eczema on his hands so bad that he had to wear gloves all the time. Nothing worked. Steroids, creams, you name it. Then one day, a friend in a grocery store gives him this totally bizarre advice. Soak your hands in your own urine. He was desperate, so he tried it. And get this, within 1 week, the eczema was completely gone. Of course, this sent him down a whole new rabbit hole. He found out that urine therapy is actually an ancient practice. It's mentioned in sacred texts like the Upanishads and has been used for thousands of years in India and China. So why haven't most of us heard about it? Maccor's conclusion is pretty simple. Because it's free. You can't make any money off of it. And his research didn't stop there. He also points to another example, camel urine, which he claims has even more advanced therapeutic properties. And unlike here in the West, it's actually respected and researched in many Arab cultures, where it's seen as a key part of traditional medicine. Okay, so here's the crucial point to all this. Maccor believes these inner technologies and, these unconventional therapies, they're not just for your own personal health. He thinks they are absolutely essential tools for navigating a massive choice that he sees all of humanity facing, like right now. He sees humanity standing at a huge fork in the road. On one path, we focus on developing our inner technology. We cultivate what he calls the divine seed that's planted in us, and we co-evolve with spirit. The other path, that's the path of outer technology, AI implants, becoming cyborgs, and, he argues, potentially losing the very core of what makes us human.
And he's not talking about some distant sci-fi future. No, he puts a timeline on it. He says this choice point, this fork in the road, is going to be here in about 4 years. So this decision is becoming urgent.
So this all builds to a final, absolutely critical choice. What are the real stakes here? What happens when we pick one path over the other?
Makor is crystal clear about what he thinks is at risk. He says that if we choose to merge with AI internally, we risk giving up our divine heritage. That divine seed, he believes, was planted inside us by a more evolved civilization a long, long time ago.
And this really brings us full circle. The whole purpose of his practices, from the breath codes to the urine therapy, is to lubricate our human systems. They're tools to help us handle the stress of growing really fast, so we can develop our inner technology quickly enough to keep pace with the outside world, all without becoming dysfunctional.
So in the end, we're left with this question. As that line between human and machine gets blurrier every day, the choice Makor presents feels more and more real. Are we going to focus on cultivating what's already inside us? Or are we going to look outward, to technology, for the next step in our evolution? It's definitely a question worth thinking about.